campaign wins. Tonight, we've come up short in this primary runoff. You know, a few years ago, I had a friend of mine say, you know what makes God laugh? He said, when we make plans. I've spent most of my time in the Senate building the Republican Party in Texas and in the U.S. Senate, and I've always supported the Republican ticket, and I intend to do so again in this general election.
I feel speechless in a way, but you know, they're not going to let me do that. Wow. To the people in this room, to the people watching at home, and to the people of the great state of Texas, tonight, we just made history.
They said it couldn't happen. They told you Trump's grip on the Republican Party was slipping. They told you the MAGA movement was fracturing. They told you that going after incumbents, going after sitting senators, going after long-serving congressmen was reckless, destructive, even suicidal for the GOP. Well, the votes are in. The results are certified. And the establishment, the Rhino establishment, the McConnell wing, the Cornyn wing, yes, even the sliver of the Massey Libertarian wing is gone, politically annihilated. And it happened not over years, not over a long, grinding generational fight, but in the span of a single extraordinary, jaw-dropping, history-making spring primary season. You are watching in real time the complete and total destruction of the old Republican establishment. Stick with me to the very end of this video because we're going to see exactly what happened, why it happened, and why the legacy media doesn't want you to understand what it all actually means. Greetings, everyone. It is Live Stream Friday. I'm your host, Dr. Steve, your patron professor, celebrating yet another glorious day in the Trumpian golden age that you made possible back in November of 2024. So if you want a front row seat on how you continue to make history and change the world in ways you never even imagined, you know what to do. Make sure to smack that bell and subscribe button. As always, our super chats are up, so feel free to send in your comments, your questions. It'll be my privilege, my honor to answer them on this live stream. And before we dive in here, I've got something that's going to absolutely blow your mind. Check this out. I know you keep telling yourself at some point in the future you're going to buy and store away a few dozen gallons of water just in case an emergency hits your family and the water shuts off. We've all experienced it. You know, the storm hits, the faucet stops working, and we're left wondering how long it's going to be before we have drinking water again. Every time it happens, we kick ourselves for not being more prepared. Well, here's an easy step that you can take that costs less than a dinner out. It's called the Pure Water Straw, and it can clean an entire year of water for you. It's absolutely amazing. It's the perfect emergency tool for making sure your family always has clean water through a disaster. So I got a little bit of some dirty water here, as it were. And what you do is you just take it out and you take the top off. And then what you can do is you can drink from any water source, no matter how dirty. Check this out. I'm kidding. I kid you not. It tastes just like water. This is coffee, obviously. I don't taste the coffee. It's just water. I mean, this is amazing. The Pure Water Straw allows you to drink from literally any water source, from the pond, from the mud puddle, the bucket that caught the rainwater. Even, I kid you not, even the toilet. The Pure Water Straw instantly cleans out bacteria, pathogens, and debris and purifies the water. So you can drink clean water from any source without worrying about, puking your guts out. We have these in our home. We got them in our cars. We've got them in our go bags. Or emergency responders actually recommend having one of these on hand for every member of your household. They store well in their sealed bag. It's a tool your family would be able to count on for years to come. Now, if a takeout meal is more important than a year of clean water for your family, well, then obviously the pure water straw isn't for you. But if you know how important clean water is, and understand how quickly a disaster can change everything, then getting a few of these pure water straws is a no-brainer. It's the most logical next step, both for your peace of mind, but also from an investment price standpoint, because normally these are $45 each, but today the makers, Sierra Madre, need to make some space in their Wisconsin warehouse, and so they're marking these guys down over 60% with free shipping to boot. Click the link in the description below and grab yours today so your family's ready for the next crisis or disaster. You won't regret it. Click on that link below right now. Yeah, I've got mine right here. I've got a bunch of packages right there. I love this straw. It's so cool. All right, let's dive right in here, gang. This week was not supposed to happen. This week, in fact, this whole month simply was never supposed to happen, as far as the Republican establishment was concerned. Yet we have to understand that the Republican establishment thought that they had buried Trump after J6. They literally were popping the cork, having arranged the election fiasco of 2020, where Republican rhino governors like Brian Kemp of Georgia and Doug Ducey in Arizona actually worked with the Democrats to force Trump out of the White House. And in case you may have forgotten, there was one Republican senator who prominently and publicly declared Trump and the MAGA movement over and done with. Check this out.
Role in the speech he gave, he's no longer president. That used to be punishment enough. I think it was a big mistake to give that speech in front of this large crowd and then to tell them to go to the Capitol. I think what we need to hear is what really the president intended, because incitement is really about your intention based on what we saw on TV and social media and what we saw in person. I'll reserve judgment until after I hear their case. Do need to work on our broken immigration system. Where I would start is with the DACA recipients. They came here to this country as children, and we don't hold children responsible for the mistakes that their parents make. It's important for us to talk and see if there is some balanced approach that makes sense. President Biden gave a very inspiring speech at the inaugural. I attended the inaugural. I thought that was important to demonstrate that we were involved in a peaceful transition of power, but he called for unity. I think in the end, we're all interested in getting things done for the country, moving past this terrible event, learning from it, making sure it never happens again, but trying to continue to do our work.
Well, as you can see, that, of course, was Texas Senator John Cornyn, one of the single most prominent and powerful members of the Republican establishment. We have to remember, John Cornyn was not just any senator. John Cornyn was a 24-year Senate veteran. He was a former Senate Majority Whip. He was one of the most connected, most institutionally entrenched figures in the entirety of the Washington establishment. He had the money. He had the name recognition. He had the donor network. He was considered the future Senate Majority Leader by many insiders. And as you just saw, he would have continued and indeed protected the uniparty status quo that always ends up ceding power to the Democrats and giving them everything they want, most especially with regard to immigration. He's voted for amnesty before, and Cornyn would have voted for amnesty again. And then Tuesday, May 26th, and in a flash, the Republican establishment's champion and all the plans he had to work with Democrats got absolutely crushed.
I'd also like to thank Scott Pressler and Turning Point Action for their endorsements. And then there's one person who I think you might know, President Donald J. Trump. When everyone in Washington told him to abandon me and abandon the people of Texas, he didn't listen. Instead, he gave his complete and total endorsement. President Trump is the leader of our party, and his endorsement in this is the most powerful force in politics. And I'm honored to have his support, and I look forward to working with him in the Senate to deliver for Texas.
Texas Attorney General Ken Paxton, with the help of President Trump, absolutely demolished Cornyn in the Republican Senate primary runoff by nearly 30 points. Cornyn literally got Liz Cheney'd. And make no mistake, this wasn't just big news. It was seismic. It was historic. It was the political equivalent of an 8.0 earthquake on the Richter scale. And the aftershocks are going to be felt from Washington, D.C., all the way down to the Rio Grande. The Republican establishment spent $100 million to reelect Cornyn. Keep in mind, that's $100 million not spent against a Democrat. That was $100 million spent against a fellow Republican. But he's an outsider. He's not part of the establishment. He's not part of the gravy train, and he would interrupt it. So $30 million of it came from the Bush wing that still infests the Texas Republican Party. They actually call themselves Texans for a Conservative Majority. Talk about a ridiculous name, right? They should call themselves Texans for neocon rhino sellouts. That's what I like. Former Governor Rick Perry chairs the Lone Star Freedom Project. They're a dark money group whose donors are undisclosed. They pumped over $17 million into Cornyn's coffers. And then, of course, there's One Nation, which is the dark money arm of Senate Majority Leader John Thune's political operation. They burned more than $10 million on Cornyn. They outspent Paxton 9-1, only to have Cornyn crash in a landslide defeat by 30 points. Think about it this way. It happened not because Paxton matched Cornyn dollar for dollar. It didn't even happen given that Paxton was able to raise a few million here or there. That 30% landslide defeat came as the result of one single Truth Social post. Let that hit you. One endorsement. Trump didn't just tilt the race. He annihilated it. Before the endorsement, Paxton was sitting around 48% on the prediction markets. Within just minutes of Trump's post, Paxton shot up to nearly 100%. Cornyn collapsed to single digits and more or less suspended his campaign. One social media post. One free, not a single dime behind it, social media post, done. Think about the power of that. If anything could demonstrate the power of the Trumpian age, more than that, I'd like to hear it. You have $100 million in campaign spending, completely eclipsed by a single social media post. That's the political earthquake that we all witness this week. The entire Republican establishment apparatus and network got obliterated with one social media post. I just think it's one of the most historic and astonishing things we've seen in a long time. Now, make no mistake, every single Republican senator immediately got the message. They immediately knew this wasn't just about Texas. It was a message sent to every single rhino who's been quietly working to block Trump's agenda while publicly pretending to support it. As Indiana Senator Jim Banks, himself a product of the Trump endorsement machine, put it, he said that when President Trump endorses a Republican, especially in a Republican primary, it is the golden ticket. There is no bigger or more effective endorsement in the history of American politics than President Trump's endorsement. And I would argue he's absolutely right. And John Cornyn just proved it painfully in front of the entire country, as did Kentucky District 4. I know this may be where it hurts a little bit for some of you. This might be a little bit of a soft part of the argument here. But on May 19th, the ultra-libertarian obstructionist Thomas Massie, who, make no mistake, built a business model from that obstructionism. He lost his Republican primary to Trump-backed challenger Ed Gallrein. And he didn't just lose, he lost by double digits. And immediately the narrative from Massie and his supporters was it was all the foreign money. It was the AIPAC money. That's right. It was the Israeli influence. It was the JOOS. That's why Massie lost, they said. But of course, who did AIPAC endorse and support in Texas? John Cornyn. And who did they endorse in the Louisiana Republican primary? It was the incumbent Bill Cassidy, who went down in flames. He came in third. So when you actually look at the money flows on both sides, this wasn't a story of foreign money defeating a pure American patriot. Again, that's the business model. That's the messaging. This was a story of two candidates who both had major outside financial backing for sure, but one of them had the most powerful force in modern American politics, the backing, the full endorsement of one President Donald J. Trump. And all you have to see is the campaign messages to prove that. What did Ed Gallrein actually campaign on? Did he campaign on Israel? Did he campaign on foreign policy? Did he campaign on Ukraine? No, he campaigned on a simple message. I support President Trump and everything he wants, and Thomas Massie doesn't. That's the difference. If you want the agenda you voted for overwhelmingly back in November 2024 enacted, vote for me. If you want it obstructed, vote for Massie. It was that simple. And the blue-collar workers of Northern Kentucky, the manufacturing workers in Boone and Kenton and Campbell counties, the factory workers along the Ohio River and the I-75 corridor, the people who watched their jobs get offshored while Massie wrapped globalist-friendly economics in libertarian rhetoric, those people voted their economic interests. They voted for loyalty. Loyalty to nation. Loyalty to the presidency they voted for in November of 2024. They voted for someone who would support tariffs, protecting their steel and aluminum industries. They voted for someone who would support the One Big Beautiful Bill with its domestic manufacturing credits and energy production incentives that would directly benefit their communities. They voted against a man who chose supposed ideological purity over policies that would have delivered real jobs, higher wages, and economic security to his constituents. But no. It was all the JOOS. And it seems that the key to this political force in the end is voter turnout, especially among low to no propensity voters. Now, if I recall, I think they were talking about this on the Promethean Updates channel. I got it from somewhere, and I think it was that. But when Trump goes in guns blazing and endorsing a challenger against an incumbent, it doesn't change who wins. It doesn't just change who wins. It energizes the base in a way that typical off-year elections simply don't. The vote totals for Massie's seat showed a massive surge of new voters coming to the polls. People who hadn't voted in 2022 or dropped off in 2024, they mobilized, they activated, they were brought back into the political process because they wanted to defend the president and make sure he has the backing he needs to carry his agenda forward. And stop fighting with his fellow Republican obstructionists. That's the hidden story of Kentucky that the naysayers just don't want you to see. The Republican Party is not shrinking. It's not fracturing. It's being rebuilt from the ground up with new voters, working class voters, blue collar voters who used to vote Democrat or didn't vote at all, and they're now the beating heart of the MAGA coalition. And besides the primaries, we're seeing this growth most prominently in voter registration trends, what are perhaps the single most accurate predictors for how a general election turns out. The numbers continue to surge for the GOP month after month after month, state after state. In North Carolina, Republicans officially surpassed Democrats in voter registration for the very first time in the state's history this year. Florida Republicans now hold a registration advantage of over 1.5 million voters in a state that was competitive and that was majority Democrat just 5 years ago. Iowa continues its rightward drift. Pennsylvania is moving. The structural foundation of the electoral map is shifting slowly but unmistakably toward not just the Republican Party, but the new MAGA Republican Party, the Republican Party led by Donald J. Trump. And so now the question is, what does all this mean for the midterms? What does this Republican realignment mean for the general election come November? Well, that's exactly what we're about to find out. But first, if you are just joining us, our super chats are up, so feel free to send in your comments, your questions. I'll be happy to answer them right here on our live stream. But also, let's face it, you had a number in your head, the number that you thought you could retire with. And then the price of life went up and up and up. And now the question isn't whether you saved, it's whether what you saved can still buy the retirement you planned for. I mean, think about what's happening right now, right? With war in the Middle East, oil spikes, and then everything gets higher. Gas, groceries, insurance, bills. We've seen this before. We're watching really a structural shift in the global economy where inflation isn't temporary, it's embedded. And historically, when that happens, purchasing power doesn't recover. It erodes. Your dollar buys less. Your savings carry less. And people who are counting down to retirement start wondering if they have to push it back, all because the cost of living moved the finish line. That was my wake-up call. I knew there had to be something else that I could do to protect what I built. So I researched, and that's when I found Augusta Precious Metals. And gang, they taught me things I didn't even know were possible. I had no idea you could move your IRA or your 401k into physical gold, tax-free and penalty-free, a real asset that's held its value through war, oil spikes, and market chaos. And that changed everything for me. I've spoken with Augusta's education team. These guys, they know their stuff, and they explained it clearly. So here's what I recommend you do right now. Go to turleybuysgold.com or text Turley to 35052. That's 35052 to get Augusta's free gold IRA guide. That's turleybuysgold.com or text Turley to 35052 because the retirement you dreamed of really is still possible, but only if you protect it.
This is Texas. This is not.
There are many more than two biological sexes. In fact, there are 6.
This is Texas. This is not.
The American flag is such a complicated symbol for most of us.
This is Texas. This is not.
They're going to call me a radical leftist.
This is Texas. This is not.
Something that you love that's not family or friends.
I love, I'm just saying this because it's on my mind, the trans children.
This is Texas. This is not.
Our southern border should be like our front porch. There should be a giant welcome mat out front.
This is Texas. This is not.
It is now existential that we try to reduce our meat consumption. I am proud to say that our campaign has officially become a non-meat campaign.
This is Texas. This is not.
Low T, too low T. I love it. Gang, people are saying that all Ken Paxton has to do is just play that ad 24/7 in a loop, and he'll win the Texas Senate seat in a massive landslide. I mean, obviously, James Tallarico is not the moderate Democrat that his allies and the legacy media are trying to portray him as. He's a very far left candidate running in Texas. And on the core issues that will define November, border security, immigration, trade, America first, economic policy. I mean, the contrast between Paxton and Tallarico just simply could not possibly be more stark. And in a post-Trump realignment, where both working class voters and Latinos have moved dramatically toward the Republican column, that contrast works overwhelmingly in the Republicans' favor, to put it mildly. Seriously, I mean, Tallarico, I would argue, is really the last candidate that the Democrats should have put up here in the midst of this political realignment. That's because, one of the fundamental reasons why the working class abandoned the Democrats, one of the fundamental reasons why we have this realignment, was because it was the reaction to the Democrats' literal lunatic obsession with wokeness and identity politics issues. We saw it beginning with Hillary back in 2016. So when voters would go to Clinton's website, they would find tabs on her homepage that you could click on for women's issues or African-American issues, LGBT issues, environmental issues, but not a single tab for working class Americans. Not a single tab for working class issues, not one. But when you went to Trump's campaign website, the whole thing revolved around working class issues. So one of the Democrats' historically most reliable constituents, labor, which was fully Democrat ever since the New Deal, they abandoned them. They abandoned them in droves because of this obsession with woke identity politics. And keep in mind, a lot of those videos that you're watching there, those video clips from Tallarico, are right around that 2020, 2021, 2022 era where wokeness just went insane. And he wanted to put himself right at the forefront of that. Now it's coming back to bite him big time. You know, you are simply not going to find a more obsessively woke candidate than James Tallarico. Here's Mark Halperin on Tallarico's chances in Texas.
Is not the ideal person to win over Texas moderates. Why is that? Because he's got so many past statements on social and cultural issues, economic issues that are just, they're not going to appeal to moderates in Texas. They're just not. So we know that Tallarico is not ideal, right? What we also know, again, working against Tallarico, is that MAGA media and digital media and the political infrastructure, both Texas and nationally, they know how to do this. They know how to do what we call in Texas football student body right. And you've already seen since the primary on Tuesday, from Governor Greg Abbott on down, and Governor Abbott's got a big campaign kitty that he can spend on this race. They're already, in a very unified, message disciplined way, saying Tallarico's not Texas. He's too liberal for Texas. And that's a problem. That is a problem.
That's a problem. Yeah, I would say that. That's talking about an understatement, right? That's a problem. Houston, we've got a problem. In fact, Halperin's arguing that things are so bad. Don't be surprised if Tallarico is forced to drop out this summer. He won't even make it to November. We'll see. But add to the fact that no Democrat has won a statewide race in Texas in over 30 years. I mean, the idea that Tallarico, who holds radical positions, as you just saw, on gender and borders and cultural policy, the idea that he's the one that's going to shatter that barrier in a Trump realigned Texas, a Trump plus 14 state, is a fantasy that Democrat strategists are selling to their donors just to raise money or to mess around with the betting markets or whatever. It ain't gonna happen. And it ain't just Texas either. In Maine, in their Senate race, where Republican Susan Collins is running to keep her seat, there's literally a new bombshell being dropped every day that's embarrassing the ultra-woke Democrat Graham Plattner. Plattner is emphatically not the candidate that the Democrat establishment wanted. They wanted Maine's governor to go against Susan Collins. And for good reason. He is an absolute catastrophe for his party. The man has a literal Nazi tattoo on his chest. What is it called? Is it the Totenkopf? He literally has a Nazi tattoo on his chest. And his explanation was he didn't know what it meant. He didn't know what it was when he got it. He said he was too drunk to remember. And then we've got unearthed Reddit posts that are so freaking depraved. I'm not even going to read them on this program. And word on the street is that that's just the tip of the iceberg with this guy. And so now top Democrats, including Senator John Fetterman, former Biden White House officials, a number of Democrats are openly disavowing him and warning that his rise is exposing a full-blown civil war between the moderate wing of the Democrat Party, what's left of it, I guess, or maybe we call it the establishment wing, versus the sort of radical Marxist woke wing of the Democrat Party. And this is the state of the opposition. This is the Democrat Party. This is the best they've got to try to take on the Republicans. This is what the Democrats are bringing to November. And in the meantime, Trump again continues to redefine politics in ways that no president has done in modern political history. He's continued to push red states, Republicans, to redistrict for November. And here are the totals thus far that we have. I believe we're still waiting on South Carolina. They got to get their dung together, or else we need to get rid of those state Senate Republicans the same way we did with the Indiana state Senate Republicans. But here's what we got so far. And here's the I'm going to show you a pattern you want to hold on to here in the weeks ahead. So Crystal Ball has Republicans with 211 safe or leaning seats, and the Democrats with 208 with 16 toss-ups. Cook Political Report has Republicans with 210 relatively safe seats, Democrats with 207 relatively safe seats, and 18 toss-ups. And then Inside Elections has Republicans with 215 safe seats and Democrats with 206 safe or leaning seats with 14 toss-ups. Now, so you can look through all of that and you see Republicans are either at 211, 210, or 215. So they're between, we would say 210 and 215, maybe put a we'll average it out, right? 213-ish. But notice in every projection, in every forecast from Crystal Ball, Cook Political, and Inside Elections, notice who's in the lead. In every one of them, it's the Republicans. Now, if you want to understand how historic that is, right, you can contrast where we are right now to where we were at this same time back in 2018 when the Democrats would go on to win 40 seats. So these are Cook's numbers. Back in 2018, the Democrats were projected this time really to blow out the Republicans by this time, with 210 seats to the Republicans at just 195 with 30 toss-ups, which, by the way, the Democrats did not sweep. They lost several of those toss-ups in 2018. So that map has now flipped. In 2026, it's the Republicans projected to win 210 seats, with the Democrats down to 207. And that's the key to this structural analysis in the midterms. In every single projected model, the GOP is leading the Democrats. It really doesn't matter by how much. It's the very fact that they are leading that is so historically unprecedented for a midterm. Historically, the party in power, right? If you guys are regular to this channel, you know this stat. Historically, the party in power loses 30 to 40 seats in a midterms. There have only been 3 exceptions to that rule: 1934, 1998, and 2002. If ever there were signs of a 4th exception, it's 2026. And so this is why redistricting was so huge and why Trump has been forcing red states to get it done. And for those who failed, like the idiot Republican state senators in Indiana and possibly in South Carolina, so that's the Mike Pence wing and the Nikki Haley wing, the political retribution is fierce and it is swift. Just ask Cornyn and Cassidy and Massey. And what's so key to getting all of this is that such a retribution is not merely a political purge. It's a full-scale political realignment. It means that for the very first time since the Gingrich Revolution in 1994, the Republican Party is marching in lockstep. They're going into the midterms fully unified behind a single coherent agenda enforced by a president who's demonstrated that he will use every political weapon available to remove those who obstruct it. It means candidates up and down the ballot know exactly what's expected of them and what happens if they deviate. It means the MAGA base is absolutely energized, activated, and showing up at the polls, not just for presidential races, but for Senate primaries, state legislative primaries, and even state Supreme Court elections like we just saw in Georgia, where the Republicans had a full sweep. The Republican Party that emerges from this spring primary season is not the same Republican Party that existed even a year ago. It's been systematically remade, purged of its obstructionists, energized by its base, disciplined by its leader, and realign with the working class voters who will determine the outcome of every competitive race in November. The establishment is indeed gone. MAGA is the party, and Donald J. Trump is just getting started. Over to you, gang. Over to you as our moderator puts together your questions. Remember, our super chats are up, so feel free to send in your questions. It'd be my privilege and honor to answer them. And also, did you know that U.S. life expectancy peaked at 78 years back in 2014? And global life expectancy is declining for the first time in 30 years. And that's because people are aging faster than ever before. Then this is largely due to more toxins in the air, chemicals in our soil and food, and other external factors that are new to us. Now, what most people don't know is that we can actually fight aging on the cellular level. Scientists have discovered that kimchi actually slows the aging process of human cells, helping to protect them and delay aging. The power of nature can outweigh the power of pharmaceuticals without the nasty side effects. And now you can get all the benefits of kimchi in a simple capsule called Kimchi One. I take Kimchi One every single day. I absolutely love it. Each capsule delivers over 900 probiotic strains, plus antioxidants and enzymes that support your digestion, metabolism, and skin health from the inside out. And as we age, we become more susceptible to microbial threats, harmful viruses and bacteria. But the beauty is that Kimchi One is a natural antimicrobial, helping your body fight off harmful bacteria, viruses, and even toxins while boosting immunity and energy. And best of all, Kimchi One is 100% made right here in America. It's all natural, non-GMO. So do what I do, support your gut, protect your cells, and feel younger every day with Kimchi One from Brightcore. Today, you can actually get an exclusive offer by clicking the link below. Just use code Turley for 25% off your entire order. Or for an even better deal, call my friends at Brightcore for up to 50% off your order and free shipping. Give them a call right now, 888-597-0233. That's 888-597-0233. All right, what do we got here? What do we got, Josh? Richard, Dr. Steve, in your opinion, what is the Trump effect when endorsing winning political candidates? Yeah, the Trump effect, I would argue, is that it brings out, when Trump gets involved in an election, it tends to bring out the low to no prop voter. Those are the ones that showed up big time in 2024. And we're finding they're showing up now when Trump gets involved, deeply involved in a race. And now it helps too that like a place like Texas is very election fortified, shall we say. It's got very good election laws, so it offers a clean election. Same with Kentucky. So of course those are going to have something to do with it. Louisiana as well. These are deep red states that take election security very seriously. So they have the results in that night. It's not a problem. It's not an issue. Did you notice that we don't have to spend weeks and weeks and weeks counting these votes in one state like they do in California or in Washington or whatever, Illinois, Chicago. So this is, I would say, the combination of the low to no prop voter and election integrity reforms are really just making this a fully MAGA party. Maximilian, what is logic? Oh, that's a good question. What is logic? Okay, so technically speaking, logic is shall we say, the art and science of inference. So logic involves analyzing the legitimacy of an inference being a conclusion. So if the two premises, we've talked about this before, if all men are mortal and Socrates is a man, therefore Socrates is mortal, what I'm doing is I'm taking the first premise and the second premise and drawing out an answer that's already entailed in that. All men are mortal. That'll give you your universal category. All men are mortal. Then I will find a subject under that universal category. Socrates. Socrates is all men are mortal. Socrates is a man. There you go. All men. The subtext of this universal all men. Socrates is a man. And if all men are mortal, and if Socrates is a man, then by definition, right, you can draw a fully analogous, a fully legitimate inference from that. But if you say something like, elephants have ears, my sister has ears, therefore my sister's an elephant, that doesn't work, right? Because if I said all elephants have ears and my sister is an elephant, then I can draw from that my sister has ears. But elephants have ears. My sister has ears. Therefore, my sister is an elephant. Breaks down because I didn't show my sister's relationship to elephants, right? Well, if I say all elephants have ears, my sister has ears. Therefore, my sister is an elephant. I'm assuming my sister is not. I haven't proven it, kind of thing. So it's the study of the validity of drawing an inference. But theologically, it's logic is a reflection of the logos. So the logos is in the ancient Greek conception of the logos from Heraclitus in the 5th century. The logos is that divine principle that holds the world together. So you've got in the ancient cosmology, earth, air, fire, and water, for all you Avatar fans, right? Earth, air, fire, and water. What combines those 4 elements in this perfect synchronicity to create the balance of the cosmos? Well, it would be what the Latins call a quintessence. So you got your 4 major essences, then you need a 5th, and to hold it all together, because one of them can't. Some philosophers tried to signal. Thales thought it was water, but regardless, they tended to go with this Heraclitean conception of the logos. There is literally a word, and that's, if you read John chapter 1, in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. That the Greek word there is logos. In the beginning was the logos, but it also means order. So that we use the word logistics around that, and that applies to us as well. Our logic enables us to speak and to order, things. So I can analyze the legitimacy of an inference. And of course, that reflects the fact that we are images of God, because it's exactly what God does in Genesis 1. He speaks a world into being, and he orders it into being. And the Christ, the Logos, is that word and that order that holds all things together. So our logic is a reflection of that infinite, eternal, communicable attribute of God. There you go. All right. That's cool. That's neat. Thanks, Maxie. Kevin, these wonderful mind-numb little Marxist angels that are vociferously complaining about how horrible this country is and are willing to burn it all down and create the country they left. Can we please send them back to where the heck they came from? And I gladly donate to help the fund that Would that be legal? I'm sure it would be. Or, right now, as I understand it, the only agency that has the jurisdiction to actually deport people is, of course, the United States federal government under ICE or Border and Customs Patrol. And it's happening. It's happening. Estimates are Homeland Security estimates over 3 million people have been deported so far. About 600,000 to 700,000 involuntarily. Those are the arrests. That's all the craziness we saw in Minneapolis. But it's also happening in red states at the same, if not more scaled level, because they don't have wacky left-wing nuts getting in the way, government lunatics getting in the way like you have in Minneapolis, or with Tim Walz as the governor of Minnesota. So, and then about 2.4 million or so have voluntarily deported themselves, and they use that. I believe they get that stat from the app that that Biden originally used to make it easier to come into the United States. Now it's being used to make it easier to get out. So no, you don't have to worry about that. The deportation program that Trump has initiated is larger than anything we've ever seen in history. Don't buy that. I know you'll see it a lot, even on Fox or whatever, when people try to catch Democrats for being hypocrites. Oh, did you know that that Obama actually deported more people than Trump, right? Or Clinton actually deported more people than Trump. Those deportations included people getting caught at the border. So the vast majority of those deportations were getting caught at the border and sent back. What Trump is doing is he's actually going into the cities and the metro areas where these illegal migrants are entrenched, and he's yanking them out. And that's what makes this so astonishing. By the time he's done, I wouldn't be surprised if we see upward, because it's also accelerating as we're going along, especially after the BBB, the billions of dollars that ICE has and Homeland Security has to enforce immigration law. But I wouldn't be surprised if we were seeing 7 to 8 million gone by the time Trump finishes. And then by the time of JD finishes his term, they'll be all gone. I could see, again, it'll be perfected, and I could see it hitting upwards of the 20 mil in these 12 years. It's absolutely astonishing stuff. Brian, I cannot reconcile the media reports of the president's approval in the 30s and the 100% primary wins. That's right. Is there any explanation other than complete media bullshit? No, I think you got it. Yeah, I think this is what the media does. This is their old game plan. It's obviously doesn't work anymore because people aren't watching the legacy media anymore. I mean, Democrats are, and center left moderates are, but the vast majority of the country, they've curated their news content. They don't watch the news anymore. They go and they find influencers, or there's certain programs, or they go on TikTok or whatever it is. Yeah, I mean, they're mutually exclusive. I think I'll continue to. We can both continue to try to figure out whether there's a medium, a synthesis of the two. But I can't see Trump having literally Bush, post 2006 approval ratings, which is what the media is pushing, and exercise the enormous political influence that he has. Bush had virtually no political, he had it over the establishment. That's probably the better way of putting it. Bush had political power only and solely through the establishment, through McConnell and McCain and all that sort of stuff. That was his power in Congress. Trump is coming in full MAGA power. That's his power. And so what you're seeing with these primaries, 100% win, 97% overall, what you're seeing with the voter registration trends, what you're seeing, I think, also with the voter roll purges that we're seeing, several million have been taken off those, and those tend to be concentrated in urban areas. And then the mass deportation, it's got to be 500,000, a million Democrat votes right there, if you think about it. Because again, they're being deported precisely from the places, the metro areas that are being purged in their voter rolls because they're so darn corrupt. So I just can't reconcile those two. And that's why, I guess, for me, that's why I really like Seth Keshel's analysis, because he's more or less, he's like, damn the polls, forget the polls. I mean, again, we use them if we think we're seeing something that's synergistic with this more structural argument. But he's basically like, forget the polls, look at the voter registration trends, and then I'll show you my election predictions based on voter registration trends. And they're literally nearly infallible. They're nearly inerrant. It's pretty impressive what Seth has pulled off. Whereas the pollsters, yeah, sometimes they're on, but man, sometimes they're off big time. I mean, just even in this Texas race, all the polling that I was seeing, and this was Qantas Insights in particular, who's one of the best in 2024. They were off by 20. They had Paxton winning by 10. That's a 20 point miss. We saw it with Massey. The pro Massey groups were polling Massey. It's slightly ahead, and Massey lost by double digits. So polling. I get nervous with black pillars who base everything on polling, and I'm just like, I was talking about logic. That your inference is as your inference is only as valid as your poll is, and we don't know until the election happens how accurate your poll is. So there needs to be some humility in your inference and in your analysis. And unfortunately, for a lot of the black pillars, I don't see any of that. So I don't see how you can reconcile them. I do like Rasmussen, and Rasmussen seemed Mark Mitchell's very fair, and he has Trump in the mid 40s, and he said he's consistently had him in the mid 40s, and that's exactly what you should. That's exactly what we would expect for a president. At this point, actually, it's an astonishing number for a president at this point in their second term. Remember, Trump has inverted his terms. It was his first term that was frustrated with a lack of political power. It's the second term where he has more political power, it seems, than any politician we've seen in modern politics. So it's impressive stuff. Spring 91 Bear, I'm worried Tallarico may win because of the suburbs. No, you don't have to worry about that. Those suburbs were there for the last 30 years, and no Democrat has won a statewide contest in Texas since 1994. Not one. And so the suburbs were always there. The answer to that is really very simple. The vote in Texas is overwhelmingly conservative. It's very strongly, even their suburbs are very conservative. And what Tallarico would have to do, from what I've read, is he would have to get Latinos 70-30, which would be a total inversion of 2024. He'd have to get that. He'd have to get blacks coming out en masse to vote for him. They're not very happy with what happened with Jasmine Crockett. Who knows? Maybe if he drops out, Jasmine will come back in the summer. He'd have to get black vote by 90%, 9-1. And then he would basically have to split the white vote up the middle. And no one's been able to split the white vote in Texas up the middle like ever. Right? You just needed a political paradigm shift. I'm not voting Democrat because, again, Ann Richards, for example, would have been considered the last Democrat governor. She would have been considered a conservative, right? In 94, as compared to, she lost in 94. That's when George W. Bush came to the governorship there. But Ann Richards would be considered a Republican today. Yeah, maybe a Susan Collins Republican, but she's not an AOC by any stretch of the imagination. So, the suburbanites are there, no question, but the basic demographics of Texas make winning Texas as a woke liberal numerically impossible. William, rumors Arthur's wife is anti-Trump, and thus he is disrupting the game plan of the POTUS, President of the United States. If this is not the case, why is Thune such an obstructionist? Ideas, please. Will. Yeah, well, I don't know about that. I don't comment on speculative things like that. The one thing we know about Thune is he is as establishment as they get. He is Mitch McConnell, just about 120 years younger, and he plays by the House of Lords Republican establishment rules. And if we don't have the votes to advance legislation, well, then we leave it at that. Then it's not worthy of being advanced. And Trump is like, dude, you find a way to win, right? And Mike Johnson's been able to do it with a margin of what? What do they have? 3-4 votes in the House. Mike Johnson's been able to figure it out. Why can't you figure it out? So what are you going to do? Are you going to nuke the filibuster? I mean, are you going to put it up as a reconciliation? Are you going to reinstate the talking filibuster? What are you going to do to make this happen? And what carrots do you need to give to the holdouts so that they vote in favor of it? I mean, we got John Cornyn supporting getting rid of the filibuster. Democrats are going to get rid of it within 24 hours if they ever take power again in the Senate. So what the heck is the matter with you? Fight, win. Like I've made the argument over and over again to these Republicans who have lost their primaries. Either you fight and win or get the hell out of the way. That's the modern American Republican Party today, the America First MAGA Republican Party. Either you're going to fight and win or get the hell out of the way. And if you don't move, we'll move your butt for you. And that's exactly what we see with Cassidy and Cornyn and Massey. They're all obstructionists in their own way, in their own different form. But I think that's it. In the end, he doesn't think in those terms. And perhaps he's got donors, the donor class, saying, look, we just got 2 more years of this Trump thing, and then we can get past it. Maybe we'll put Rubio in or whatever. But like what we're finding with the $100 million wasted on John Cornyn, the millions wasted on Massey, the millions wasted on Cassidy. I mean, that world just doesn't exist anymore. So it's a virtual reality. The Bush, Romney, Ryan, Rove wing of the Republican Party is dead. It's gone. And people will either sit out from the election entirely, or they may even go to a populist left candidate, like we saw in New York in Mamdani, where about 10% of Mamdani's votes voted for Trump. So they don't care about the left versus right. It's the people versus the permanent political class, and that no one embodies that aloofness, that cultural alienation more than John Thune. So that's my best take on it. Mitchell, did you see the reports about ticks being dropped in farm fields? Is there any information out there that Trump knows about this? I don't know, Mitchell. I haven't caught up with that. Ticks in farm fields. No, we'll have to look that up, but I don't know. I couldn't comment. Bob, Paul, go Dr. Steve. Learned so much from this channel. Thank you. Thank you so much, Bob. Very much appreciated. Thank you. Harry, Dr. C, 2 big elections coming up as first this Sunday. Yep, I've been watching it, the Columbia race round. We're rooting for nationalists. Abelardo de la Espriella. How did I do with that? Did I do okay? Espriella. And then on June 7th in Peru with, of course, my wife's Japanese, right? So with the nationalist Keiko Fujimori versus leftist Roberto Sanchez. Yeah, she should do well because her father was president of Peru, and so she the name recognition is wonderful. And again, the whole of Latin America is shifting right now. They love Nayib Bukele. They love Javier Milei. They love Trump. They love what he's doing to Venezuela. They love what he's going to do to Cuba. So yeah, I think we could expect to see 2 thoroughly right-wing administrations arise. Colombia, I would hope, especially because they're in some big trouble there with this current administration. RoboGuy, if we're supposed to be ahead in the AI thing, then companies and CEOs forcing AI and building data centers where people don't want it might as well be sabotaging the race for us. Oh, that's it. Yeah. Well, I don't know. I don't know how much people are making that connection yet. So you're bringing in technopolitics, and that's good. I'm working on this book called The Civcosm, Civilizational Cosmocracy, to bring these 3 layers together. So if you don't know what I'm talking about, basically world order has broken out into 3 different orders. I think they're very interrelated, but they are distinct. You can look at them in their own distinct fashion. So you've got what I call theopolitics, which is the radical religizing of geopolitics. We're seeing it play out right now with Iranian theocracy fighting the Abraham Accords alliance. So you're seeing religion is just constantly making a comeback now in ways we couldn't even imagine. Conservative religionists have literally 2 babies for every 1 baby from, say, a liberal atheist, for example. So the demography is just moving more and more into a very theocratic-like world, but with modern, to a certain extent, we could say even liberal constraints. And so that's what's known as constitutional theocracies. So God, whatever your religious tradition is, that is going to be the basis for the moral basis for your laws. But oftentimes a secular court is there to adjudicate the extent to which those laws violate civil rights and the like. It's a fascinating sort of archaeo-future arrangement. I geek out of this. Forgive me. So you got your theopolitics, but then you have your technopolitics, and that's the arms race going on, particularly over AI, quantum computing, and the like. And then you have a third layer in this, and that's astropolitics, and that's the politics that's going on in outer space with satellites and space stations and lunar missions and terraforming on Mars and all that sort of stuff. And the United States is way, 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 way ahead of that. Now you're talking about the AI and the data centers, massive data centers that are, yes, this is an issue. They are disenfranchising rural populations that are generally voting red. And so that's going to have to get worked out, no question. And that would be more along an aristo-populist line or even a techno-populist line. So techno-populism is very similar to aristo-populism in that it sees you're always going to have an elite, in this case, a tech elite, Elon, for example, or Jensen Huang of NVIDIA is in my head. You're always going to have an elite, but in a aristo-populist sense, going back to Aristotle, the elite know it's their responsibility to use their massive power and wealth to advance and enact the values, interests, and concerns of the people. So there is no massive chasm between the elites and the people. It's very similar like Trump, very similar like Elon Musk. They are one with the people, and they see the great responsibility that they've been given with this wealth and with this, in this case, techno power, to enact the values, interests, concerns of the people. So this definitely does have to get worked out in such a way, the placement of data centers and so forth. It's going to have to work out in such a way where the people are satisfied. And if they're not, yeah, there's going to be blowback there. And it'll be, again, that's part of this notion of techno polarity, where power distributions move around in accordance with populist sentiments. So we have to be very careful for sure. That's a great insight, RoboGuy. Benton, Dr. Steve, what say you on the Texas U.S. Senate race between Paxton and Tallarico? Come on, I just did a whole video on it. The Democrats are pumping in the money and the race. Mainstream media is making him to being a righteous messianic figure. Tallarico states there are 6 different genders. He says Texans should go vegan. He wants gun control. He also supports the open borders policy. He's a state legislature near Austin. He was a middle school educator and a Presbyterian minister. To me, he is Beto on woke steroids. Yeah, exactly. He's not going to get to what I'm reading. He's not going to get anywhere near Beto O'Rourke's almost picking Ted Cruz off back in, when was that? 2018. That was, he came in within 2%. That's not going to be Tallarico, but you don't have to worry. I mean, again, just rewind back the video that I did just now, this live stream video, and you'll see we talk extensively about that. MAGA 24-hour Dr. Steve, if I correctly recall from your analysis, Republicans are up 13 House seats in the redistricting wars this year. Can you estimate how many will change, in 2028 due to VRA, forced compliance, and whether the plus 12 census change will happen by 2028, 2030, or 2032? Thank you. Okay. Yeah, so as I understand it, the plus 12 census will not be fully in effect until 2032. So it'll happen in 2030, but we're going to have to wait one election cycle before all the electoral college numbers shift, and then the congressional seats shift as well. And as you know, the Democrats are I mean, that's it. They'll be permanently boxed out of power at that point. And I think they know it, and they're doing their best to get what they can or try to contain the catastrophe of that. Right. Around 13 seats. And I forgot how many we've netted together. So they've got 6. So I guess that'd be a net of 7 of where we are now. I don't know how many more we're going to get as a result of the VRA decision, the Calais decision. That's a good question. It could be gigantic because you're not just dealing with federal districts, you're dealing with state and local districts as well. You're literally dealing with school districts. I mean, and all of that is going to have to get rethought and remodeled and redrawn. So I couldn't even imagine what it would be like for 2028. Like I said, I think you're just going to have a fundamentally different Congress. And there are plenty of analysts who recognize that by 2028, the Republican Party should be the dominant party for the foreseeable future, with the Democrats locked out of power. That's what we should see if these state legislatures learn how to play ball. A lot of them are just, I mean, for them, well, there you go. I gave the metaphor. For them, this is college sports. Politics is just college sports. And we don't want to eliminate the other team. When in point of fact, for Democrats, politics is literally a holy war. So when you've got these idiot state Republicans in Indiana and South Carolina actually blocking and obstructing new maps that will give us at least 2018 or 218, they're the enemy. And they're no different than a Democrat at that point. And they need to be primaried out of there real fast. Lion Farmer, thank you for continued informed encouragement with a godly foundation. Very powerful, very unique and powerful. Well, thank you. Thank you, Lion Farmer. I love it. Norwood Wildlife. Hey, Dr. Steve, now that the VRA has been overturned, can the DOJ and Harmeet Dillon sue every state, especially the blue states, to redraw their maps to get rid of their gerrymandered districts? Yeah, I think you're going to see that leading up to 2028. Again, it's a little late to do that in mass now, but you could. I mean, you could get the process going, but it won't be in time for 2026. But yeah, I think you most certainly can. I think you most certainly are going to see some lawsuits, because Trump knows he knows we can't rely on polling for what issues people support and all that sort of stuff. Elections are increasingly becoming structural. They're increasingly they're increasingly having the result baked into the district itself, whether it's blue or red. So this is what makes primaries so important now, right? So a lot of people say, well, doesn't that take away from my choice and my constitutional representation? No, that's why primaries are the big thing now, right? We know Democrats are going to win Baltimore, right? But so what they do is they focus on primaries so as to get, the best, most liberal left-wing candidate or whatever the Baltimore establishment wants, kind of thing. But we're seeing the same thing with Trump. We're cleaning house, not by electing Democrats in the general, but by electing MAGA folks in the primaries. Texas and LaShock. In 2018, wasn't there also the slew of incumbents retiring, leaving a bunch of open seats? We haven't seen anything like that this time. There was a lot of Republicans in the House were retiring right around that time, making things harder. Because again, they know politics. They know the pendulum swing. They know they're going to be in the minority, and there's no way they're going to stop it. And as you could see, Trump was still really a greenhorn when it came to politics and policy and strategy. But keep in mind, even in the midst of that, we still picked up 2 seats in 2018. And 2018 was the year that Florida started going solid red. Barely. DeSantis barely won over what turned out to be a crackhead opponent, a Democrat opponent. But ever since then, and since COVID, Florida's just gone so deep red. Same with Texas, Tennessee, North Carolina is getting more red. So all of this is happening structurally, where the voter registrations are through the roof for the Republicans, and therefore we can track those registrations, get them out either with an early ballot or get them to the polls, and then structurally we have dominance congressionally for the foreseeable future. Robo Guy, I for one am open to a constitutional monarchy. Yeah, oh yeah. Hey, well, the UK is a constitutional monarchy. Robo Guy, just wish Thune was up for re-election this year so we can kick him out. But hey, kicking his buddies out is good too. Yeah, no, you're right. And again, we saw this after what's his name? After, was it McCartney? I'm forgetting. I can't. The previous House Speaker. This is driving me crazy while I'm talking. I hate that when I can't remember. You guys can put it in the chat. Somebody put it in the chat. I'll read the chat while I'm doing this. It's hard once you get rid of once you get rid of a leader, then all the knives come out, and then you have this civil war break out within the party. So in many respects, Kevin McCarthy, that's, I think, there we go. I finally got it. The battle that you wage to get a new leader may be worse than just having a bad leader. Now, Mike Johnson's been able to pull it off, and God bless him. But that, that took a while. So once we got rid of Kevin, it took a long time before we were able to, several weeks before we got a viable candidate like Mike Johnson that everyone could vote for. And so there you go. It's we could get rid of Thune now, but who would take his place? There is nobody. I mean, the Senate is very, very polarized right now because you still have where you see the establishment living, breathing, and having its being most explicitly in the House of Lords, in the Senate. All the while, more or less, the House has pretty much gone MAGA. They're all 100% behind Trump's agenda, 2024 MAGA agenda. Whereas the Senate, a lot of Republicans aren't, because again, they're like, screw it, we're just going to wait till he's gone, and then we're going to do what we want to do. And Trump is really ratcheting up the pressure, saying, okay, you could do that, but I'm going to start, pinging off a bunch of you in these primaries. And then, there's not going to be much of an establishment left when I'm done with you. And then you can go and find a new Senate leader. I mean, definitely, I think John Thune, his days are coming to an end at some point for sure. Mama Boz, I don't care if we win fair or cheat. We need to save the country. Amen. Amen. I really, I despise the fact that we're always trying to counter Democrat cheating with noble legislation. How about just, forgive me. I mean, maybe I should, because I'm on the airwaves here, I'm not saying we should cheat, but wink, wink, nudge, nudge, right? I mean, I just say defeat them at their own game. It just seems everything that the Republicans do that counter the Democrats, that basically apply the same tools that they applied when they were in power, I just think that's a win-win every time for us. We always win as a result. So we need to stop. That's why, as some of you I know are waiting for, when do the handcuffs get broken out, and when do we see the perp walks, and when do we see us doing to them what they did to Trump? It may be happening behind the scenes. Certainly Dan Bongino, now that he's been now he's done as deputy director of FBI, he's said it multiple times. Wait till you see what comes out. It's coming out. Just wait till you see it. It's going to blow your way. MDE, Trump is old hickory reincarnate. He would cast a beautiful MAGA shadow over DC as long as he lives. The endorsement power is the proof. I agree 1,000%. Even when he's not president, he is still the leader of the party. I agree 1,000%. And his endorsement will still have the same power. And he will help lead and guide the new administration as part of it. In his own, not formally, but informally as part of it for sure. Texas and La Shock, I heard a Nick Fuentes clip ranting about the Vanity Project ballroom. I started wondering if maybe it's a hobby instead, like Iran. The Democrats in legislation are work, and the ballroom and sprucing up DC are how he relaxes. Oh, I get it. Yeah, because he's returning to his roots. He's always been a builder. So, I mean, he's very at home with that. And you could tell, I mean, he's very knowledgeable, very literate about the building process, far more than anyone else in DC. Well, first of all, I can't comment on Nick Fuentes. I don't know Nick Fuentes at all. And I only know of him what I've read because I don't listen to him. But he just, it sounds to me when he when he's talking about the Vanity Project ballroom, there is no difference between his rhetoric and AOC's. There's no difference between his rhetoric and Ilhan Omar's, or Graham Plattner's, for that matter. So become a radical left-wing Democrat then. Stop trying to portray yourself as somebody that's really Republican or really right-wing or so forth. I mean, if you're an ethno-nationalist, go with the Democrats, because that's what they push. They push ethno-nationalism in their identity politics. So go. Yeah, I just don't understand. To me, I'm like, I mean, where does something like this even come from? I think we just live on different planets. Salvatore R. Principe. I do not hear much talk about replacing the Department of Education. Do you think the public funding via taxes can be diverted to homeschooling and charter schools? What's your alternative to the low reading and math scores that plague the present system? Great question. Yeah, I haven't heard anything much either. Again, we hear it through the news, right? So I guess nothing particularly newsworthy has happened as of yet. Trump did want to, in his first term, wanted a national school choice program, whether it's through ESAs, educational savings accounts, or vouchers, or tax credits, whatever. He wanted a full-blown school choice initiative in every single state. It's mandated by the federal government. I don't think that went anywhere. The way to fix it when all said and done is you got to get rid of the education establishment. They're radical leftists. They're cultural Marxists, and they're there solely to maintain power on behalf of their far left ideology. Privatizing schooling would be excellent, a great solution, because then schools have to perform. They have to show their bona fides and whether they're worthy of your time, not just because you're mandated to go there by virtue of the district you live in. And I think too, you have I'm a huge advocate of classical education. So for classical educators, this is the return of the great books. This is the return of theology as the queen of sciences, the return of learning Latin as the basis for grammar and sentence structure and thought, learning logic, the tools of logic, and so forth. So classical education, the education of all of our founding fathers, I think is the ultimate way to resolve this the plague of the present system, as you call it. Nancy, how long should we wait for the new Federal Reserve head Warsh to start making progress? How much influence does Powell still have? I don't think Powell has much influence at all. As a matter of fact, I think he's very happy to step down. He does not want to be Trump's punching bag. Good question. I do not know when Warsh is going to start making his moves and cutting interest rates and the like. But it's going to happen. It'll happen soon. This is, again, he was handpicked by Trump, so it should go well. MDE, you mentioned resentment politics last week. The French Revolution came to mind. The party that wields that sword seems to off each other eventually. It does. And we've seen it, with LGBT politics combined with Islamic politics. And so in Islamic jurisdiction, or as an Islamic demographic will vote for the same candidate that the LGBT demographic voted for. And we saw that in Dearborn, Michigan. And we saw that in Hamtramck. Well, one of the first acts that the all Muslim, I think all Democrat Hamtramck City Council did is they banned the pride flag. we saw almost the exact same thing in Birmingham, UK, where an openly gay principal wanted to institute an LGBT-friendly curriculum in their K-8 school. But the problem is 60 or 70% of the school are all Muslim, primarily Pakistani Muslim. And the parents flipped out and they had to cancel the program. So now, again, they vote the same way, but then they end up, once they get to power, as it were, once they get what they want, then they start axing each other because they're not victims anymore. The only thing that holds people together in resentment politics is victimhood. And they're victims of this establishment that is oppressing them. But once they become the establishment, once they get power, and once a particular group gets to power, the other groups oftentimes get shafted. So yeah, it ends up destroying itself for sure. In human condition, how impactful will the arrest and conviction of Neville Roy Singham be against communism in this country? I doubt it can happen since no one here is even held accountable. Yeah, and is he even here? I thought he was in China. Was it? Am I getting him mixed up with somebody else? I thought he and his wife had moved to China, or they spent a lot of time in China. Yeah, so this is what we're gonna have to see. This all comes down to the DOJ and the extent to which they're willing to financially dismantle the left. Same goes for Soros as well. But but the impact would be huge. And it would be the moment people start getting arrested, you start distancing yourself from them and their entourage. We saw it after J6 in 2020. We saw, or in 2021, we saw a number of supposedly MAGA faithful renounce it. So don't send me to prison, please don't send me to prison. So they wouldn't be dragged in with what they thought was the retribution that was supposed to come against Trump. And of course, that's one of the reasons why Ken Paxton was endorsed. Paxton was by his side the entire time when he was being legally persecuted as well as prosecuted. Wesley, I'm from Brazil and love your channels. Let's elect Flavio Bolsonaro. Thank you, Trump, for classifying our crime organizations terrorists. Yeah, absolutely. Wesley, I'll be there next week. I'm going to be in Brasilia. So if you're around at a classical school conference, it's the first one, I think, ever in Brazil. We actually had a small one back in 2019, I think it was. When was Bolsonaro first? When was Jair elected? 2018, right? So it would have been 2018, the summer of 2018. Everyone was really excited about Jair Bolsonaro. But they just thought that he could never win because the establishment always pull the plug in some way, shape, or form, pull the rug out from under him. I'm trying to find a nice metaphor. And anyway, yeah, so we had a small classical education conference then, but this is huge. I think there's over 1,000 people coming. So I'll be one of the speakers. And yeah, can't wait. I love Brazil. And your pizzas, man. I was in Sao Paulo, so I had the Sao Paulo pizza, which is great. Coming from a guy from New Haven. I was born in New Haven. We pride ourselves of having the best pizzas in the country. ROT Core, wait, where are the Democrats getting all these millions if there's so much in debt? Okay, so basically what the debt shows is that's the DNC. And what's happening is Democrat donors aren't giving to the DNC anymore. Perhaps they never were, and the DNC was getting most of its money from USAID, right? And all the shady shell corporations and foundations that were founded in order to divert taxpayer numbers to left-wing causes and politicians. So they're sending their money directly to the candidates, directly to Tallarico, directly to Plattner, directly to Hochul in New York. So they're now what makes that bad then is there's no coherent. It's almost like the Iranian Mosaic doctrine, where if the top leadership gets taken out, every general gets to act more or less as a sovereign leader over his own provincial jurisdiction force. And so you literally can have, I forgot how many they had. I think they have 22 or so, 20 plus provinces. So you have literally 20 plus different ideas of how to rule. And I think I do agree that if you have a very vibrant, in touch, competent, centralized organization to give to that can then spend that money wisely, then you give it to them. Obviously, and that's, by the way, what happened with Cornyn is all these outside PACs pump money into his coffer, and everything except John Thune's his dark money organization. Everyone, it seems to me, were outside the mainstream, like Republican National Committee. They were doing it on their own initiative, and they're with the full blessing of the DC establishment. So they're broke, but they're broke at the DNC level, not necessarily at individual candidates levels. Movie erotic. You think inflation will go down after the war is over? Yep, definitely. Yeah, definitely. It's the oil prices that are pushing prices up. Because just when energy is more expensive, everything becomes more expensive because everything needs energy to be produced. But it's already going down. There's a number. I mean, the future speculators we've seen it drop dramatically to its lowest point now in, I think, 6 weeks, 5 or 6 weeks, and it'll continue to go down. And then that gives Trump more leverage because it completely backfires the Iranian strategy of causing pain at the pump, and then politically pressuring Trump to concede. Mal Milligan, if Trump makes a deal with the remnants of the Iranian Revolutionary Guard soon, will this mean we're going to see them continue? Is this partly 4D chess with the midterms around the corner? Because it seems that choking off the regime's oil money the way we are now is eventually going to put cracks in their iron fist domination over the unarmed people of Iran. Yeah, and it's a great question, Mel. And I think you're right. I do. I just think what Trump is going to do, what he's aiming at now, I think he's very satisfied at the ability. He's very satisfied with the outcome of really just about a 12-day war when all said and done. I think that's Victor Davis Hanson's calling it more or less a 12-day war for the United States, not the original one in June of 2025 with Israel. I think they called that their 12-day war with Iran as well. We basically annihilated their ability to project power within about 12 days, 2 weeks. And now they could still make life difficult for people, because we can't find every single, a tiny little mine boat or they stash their weapons away, and at some point, their drones and all that. And at some point, you kind of got to say, all right, I think we pretty much rendered them inert. So whatever if they still have some drones, if they still have some mines and so forth, okay, we just got to more or less make sure they don't use them or clean them up. And that's what I understand. That's part of the conditions. Hormuz will be fully opened up. And then in that process, they will be having meetings. And then we've got the astropolitics of satellite surveillance. So we see exactly what they're doing in terms of their nefarious activities surrounding the uranium. And Trump has said, we'll get it eventually. So, but again, you could do it, can walk and chew gum at the same time. We can continue negotiations and have Hormuz fully open at the same time. And then if we have to, we just go in and continue to bomb. That's exactly what Trump has said. Mr. 111 Big Daddy, love your content, Dr. Steve. My question, do you think the biggest factor in the midterms is if Trump can get gas prices down at this point? I watched a video where Newt Gingrich mentioned it. Yeah, well, it's going to be yes. High gas prices are not going to help. They're not going to help your cause if you're a Republican. So yes, definitely. I think he's going to have to. That's what I think these negotiations are all about. And ultimately, this new plan. And remember, this is not just Trump. This is Israel. This is Saudi Arabia. This is UAE. This is Bahrain. It's the entire Abraham Accords alliance, though, that Saudi Arabia has yet to join. But Bahrain is part of it. UAE is part of it. But there is a civilizational alliance arising in the Middle East, and Trump is doing everything he can to try to assimilate Iran into that alliance, and thus break up not only the proxies in the region, Hezbollah, Hamas, and the Houthis, but also to box out China from having a disproportionate influence in the region, being Iran's chief financier. And that's it. All right, gang, have a wonderful weekend. If we have any big news breaking, I will be your back porch professor, giving you Breaking news and analysis you're not going to get anywhere else. Love you guys. God bless.